Welcome back to We Want Picks. I'm Artem MMA, and in this video I'm going to be talking about One Fight Night 12, Super League versus Kalilov, and it's going to be a very good one championship card, and it's going to be on at a very good time for the American audience, because it's on at Friday at 8 PM Eastern Time on Amazon Prime, and I am very much looking forward to this card, but I am only going to be talking about the MMA fights in this video. I just don't feel too up to date with the world of grappling, Muay Thai, and kickboxing to give confident predictions for those fights. But I am very up to date with the world of MMA, and I have watched a lot of tape on these fighters, which you will hear about in my breakdowns coming up later in the video. So I'm pretty confident in the picks that I am going to give you guys for the MMA fights. Now, as for the card, I'm very much looking forward to it. There's a bunch of undefeated fighters on the card, as well as a legendary kickboxer going to be making his MMA debut as well. But before we do get into the picks, you do have the We Want Picks Premium membership program where you get access to all of these sort of things here. You get my article, you get the AI, you get Angelo and Jacob's picks, as well as all of the tools that can help you make your own bets. And on top of that as well, by watching this video, you can actually use my code ARTEM and get a 3-day free trial, which you can cancel at any time. You can cancel during the trial if it's just not quite what you wanted, or you can get the 3-day free trial and then continue on with the picks for the rest of the month for only $10 a month. And I think it's very good value. You get the best value out of anything MMA. You get stuff from me, We Want Picks, and also you get the AI picks as well. And with all of that being said, now let's get into the predictions for One Championship Fight Night 12. So the first MMA fight of the night is going to be the debuting Aaron Canarte taking on Akbar Abdullaev, who had a very electric debut for One Championship just recently, where he won in 44 seconds by KO over Hotake O at 155 pounds. And it's very interesting that I do note that this fight is at 155 pounds, because Aaron Canarte has spent the majority of his career at 145. And when I was watching his fight, this guy is very small for the weight class. Now, some of these fights were at 150 pounds, but he was significantly smaller than Walter Reyes, and even recently as well, against Ivan Mayer, he was the much smaller fighter. This guy, at some point, looks like he could make 135. He's that small compared to his opponents, whereas Akbar Abdullaev has also fought at 145 pounds in the past, and he didn't look very small whatsoever when he fought at 155 pounds against Hotake O in his most recent fight. Now, both of these guys are going to be similar in height, but Akbar Abdullaev will be the much bigger fighter, in my opinion. Aaron Canarte has looked very small against other opponents, and this is going to be the toughest test of Aaron Canarte's career, where Akbar Abdullaev has had a couple of good fights recently, especially in the One Championship against Hotake O, where he did just go out there, landed a brutal right uppercut, knocked down Hotake O, and finished him off with ground and pounds. Now, Aaron Canarte is a guy I was actually thinking might be on Dana White's Contender Series this year at 145 pounds, but One Championship has signed him to take a fight at 155 pounds, and I don't really like it for him. Canarte, he's a boxer for the most part, but he does throw leg kicks. He throws a lot of hooks, but he does leave himself open to be countered, and that's what Akbar Abdullaev is. He's a counter striker, and that's how he gets a lot of his wins. Abdullaev is actually a very good fighter, but most of his wins have come in the first round. In fact, most of them are first round KOs. Interestingly enough, though, this fight against Alexander Treskin actually happened in the third round when he won the fight. But in that matchup, Alexander Treskin actually went out there and looked like a mini Volkanovski. Not even joking. This guy was built and he was buff as, and he won the fight, the first round against Abdullaev by taking Abdullaev down like 4 or 5 times. Treskin was able to get Abdullaev down to the ground very often, but Abdullaev was able to get up. And after the first round, after, to be honest, just beating up Abdullaev in the first round, Treskin gassed out, and Abdullaev was able to take over, almost finished the fight in the second round, but did finish the fight in the third round, even though Tapology does say that was a round 2 finish. If you do go to Aaron Canarte, though, this guy mixes it up. He mixes the striking in with the wrestling, which could have a pretty good positive effect against Abdullaev, because I think he probably is going to have to mix up the wrestling with Abdullaev. When he fought this guy recently and won a decision over Fernando Arevalo, he was mixing up the striking with the wrestling. He would take down Arevalo sometime around the halfway point of every single round and just controlled on top and won a pretty safe decision by doing that. Against Walter Reyes was out there, even though he had a massive reach advantage over Aaron Canarte. Reyes was trying to take him down, but he managed to defend the takedowns and ended up rocking Reyes with the right hand. Reyes gets back up, and then Canarte puts his lights out, man. He put him out bad. Only 2 minutes into the first round. And then against Ivan Mayer, he wins the first round and then ends up hurting Ivan Mayer at the very start of the second round, and then gets a takedown, finishes the fight off with a arm triangle choke. So Aaron Canarte, very well-rounded fighter, whereas Akbar Abdullaev, he has shown grappling in the past in some fights, but for the most part, he's trying to knock you out on the feet. I think Abdullaev is the more technical striker. I think Abdullaev is the guy that is going to be much bigger in the matchup. And I like the fact that he's a counter striker, because Aaron Canarte, although he's a boxer for the most part, I would say, when he is on the feet, he's throwing a lot of hooks. Like, most of his strikes are hooks, and he is leaving himself very open. And I think Abdullaev is going to be able to capitalize on that. He's showing big power throughout his entire career. He showed massive power at 155 pounds when he beat Ho-Taek Oh. And that was a good win, because Ho-Taek Oh was on a good win streak at the time as well. Had a win in one championship himself. And I think that what we're going to see is Akbar Abdullaev beat the undefeated Aaron Canarte. And I'm going to be picking Akbar Abdullaev to win by knockout, probably in the first round, if not in the first round, in the first 2 rounds. So I'm going to go with Abdullaev to win by KO in this matchup, and the majority are picking Abdullaev. But I do believe we're going to see Akbar go out there and knock out Aaron Canarte. And now we have a very interesting fight in Walter Goncalves taking on Duoji Banma. And the reason why this is so interesting is because a debuting fighter is fighting someone with 14 professional fights. And I am too confident in Walter Goncalves, to be honest. I'm going to be picking Walter Goncalves, and I genuinely do believe that he gets it done. Walter Goncalves is not just your average Muay Thai fighter going to make his debut. He's 25 years old, and he's been at the top of Muay Thai. He went to a split decision against Rodtang, and some people even think that he won that fight. It was a lot of Rodtang pressuring forward, and Walter Goncalves was kind of backing up a lot, but Walter Goncalves was landing a lot of good shots himself, including overhand rights. And that's one thing that I noticed a lot about watching Walter Goncalves. He's got a very good striking style for MMA in Muay Thai, because when he was fighting in Muay Thai, he was throwing a lot of overhands, he was throwing a lot of hooks, he wasn't throwing like too many high kicks, because he is a pretty short guy, he's 5'3", and in MMA, that's probably pretty good, because you don't want to be throwing too many head kicks out of fear of getting taken down, and hooks and overhands are a very effective way to close the distance in MMA. And when he's fighting a guy like Duoji Banma, who's 5'9" and will be a lot taller and longer than him, I think those weapons are going to be very useful. Duoji Banma's on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost to a guy that was 1-3, but I'm just assuming he got out-wrestled. I couldn't find the fight, but I'm assuming he just got out-wrestled, and then he went out there and fought a 43-year-old man and lost to him. Now, Dijderong, I believe, did have a Muay Thai background himself, but in that fight, Duoji Banma's legs were just getting chopped up the entire fight. He wasn't really able to land anything. He was competitive in the matchup, but his opponent really was just able to land a lot of shots to the legs, and at the end, he kind of just couldn't really move, and he did get finished in the second round. I think Walter Goncalves goes out there. I think he chops the legs. I think if he's got a game plan in mind, it's definitely going to be following Dijderong's game plan of just chopping the legs of Duoji Banma. Banma throws a lot of hooks, and when he does throw hooks, he leaves himself very exposed. And a guy with a 72-7 Muay Thai record, which does include world titles as well, a split decision loss to Rodtang, who's an absolute beast at Muay Thai. I can just see Walter Goncalves going out there and knocking out Duoji Banma in the first 2 rounds. I'm going to be going with Walter Goncalves to win this matchup. Only 42% of people picking him on Tapology. As I said, I'm too confident in this fight. I really am. I genuinely believe that Goncalves goes out there and knocks out Banma. I was not impressed by Banma whatsoever when I was watching him. He's a striker, which isn't good, because he's going to want to strike with Walter Goncalves. He doesn't seem to have any wrestling. He doesn't seem to be strong in the wrestling. He doesn't seem to be strong enough to get takedowns either. And I don't know how much MMA Goncalves has been training, but he really should beat this guy, Banma. He really should. Very good Muay Thai fighter with a good Muay Thai style for MMA as well. So I think it's going to translate very well. And Goncalves, as I said, he's 25 years old. He's not like a Muay Thai veteran that's like 35 years old, 32 years old, finally coming over to MMA. He's 25 years old. He genuinely could have an MMA career ahead of him. And I do think he gets past Banma in this matchup. I think it's a bad matchup for Banma. Goncalves will be the better striker. He'll be the more powerful striker. I think he can touch Banma, and I think he can touch him early. And if he doesn't, he's just going to have those leg kicks there all day. And I think he can win based off just really hurting Banma with leg kicks over the course of a fight. So give me Walter Goncalves to win this matchup as his debuting fight against a 14-2 opponent. Wei Xie versus Yuya Wakamatsu is the next fight, and this is going to be a very, very fun fight because both guys are super aggressive. Both guys have a lot of KO wins. Of the 17 wins by Wei Xie, 12 of them are by KO. Of the 15 wins by Yuya, 11 of them are by KO. It's crazy how many knockouts these guys have in between each other, and they're going to be fighting each other next weekend. They are very, very aggressive fighters. In fact, I would say that Wei Xie is going to be the faster fighter out of the two. He is going to be the smaller fighter out of the two as well. And maybe he is the more technical striker. I believe he's got a Shaolin Kung Fu background where he did it for 4 years. I'm not too familiar with it, but I do know that he does have a Shaolin Kung Fu sort of base. And he's very, very fast. He's very powerful. His fight against Daekwon Kim was actually very fun to watch back on. And Yuya Wakamatsu, on the other hand, although he's got so many KOs, this guy actually initiates a lot of wrestling, and I was very surprised with how much this guy grappled. In fact, he actually went out there and fought against a guy in Rhys McLaren from Australia who's a great grappler. In fact, he actually submitted Wei Xie in 1 round if you wanted to do a little bit of MMA math. But in that fight, to my surprise, Yuya Wakamatsu was actually initiating a lot of the wrestling and the grappling. He was going out there and going for takedowns against Rhys McLaren, which was very unexpected when I watched the matchup. I just expected Wakamatsu to kind of beat him up on the feet, and that wasn't really the case whatsoever. And in a lot of Yuya Wakamatsu's fights, he's actually going for takedowns. However, in his most recent loss to Sung Hoon Woo, it was very unfortunate. He was actually winning the fight until he got drawn into a brawl. Sung Hoon Woo managed to draw him into a brawl, and Hoon Woo got on top of the brawl. He managed to hurt Wakamatsu, knocked him down, and then just a lot of ground and pound ended up finishing the fight. But I was surprised with how good Wakamatsu's striking was before the knockout loss, but then once he did get drawn into the brawl, he lost. And I think if he gets drawn into a brawl against Wei Xie, he will lose, because Wei Xie's the more technical striker, in my opinion. I think he's faster as well. And this guy is super aggressive. Both of these guys are aggressive. But I think Yuya Wakamatsu would be very smart to use some grappling in this matchup. And I hope that he does. Because we have seen Wei Xie lose when the fight does get to the ground. Recently, he did get subbed by Rhys McLaren in the first round, as I said. Daekwon Kim was having success when he was trying to initiate the grappling. But Wei Xie was just kind of beating him up on the feet. It was actually a very fun fight. But I think Yuya Wakamatsu... You see Yuya Wakamatsu and you see no submission wins, you see 3 submission losses, and you think that he's just going to be a pure striker. But as I said, I was actually very impressed with how good his grappling was. You know, it didn't look that good against Adriano Moraes, to be fair. But against Rhys McLaren and Yong Hu, he was taking Yong Hu down, he was taking Rhys McLaren down. He just knocked out Kyu Sung Kim in the first round with his striking, which is very good. But I think if he mixes it up, I think the more well-rounded fighter is Yuya Wakamatsu. I didn't see too much grappling from Wei Xie, and what I did, it wasn't offensive, it was defensive. So I think if Yuya Wakamatsu can mix his striking up with the grappling, I'm going to pick Yuya Wakamatsu to win a decision in this matchup over Wei Xie. I think Wei Xie's a tough guy. I think if Wei Xie wins, it's going to be by knockout. But I'm going to go with Yuya Wakamatsu to win a decision in this matchup by using his striking and his grappling. He's a great striker, but he's also a great grappler, to my surprise. I went into this tape study thinking this guy was just going to be a pure striker. I was very impressed with his grappling. Wei Xie's grappling, not so much. You know, he wins fights when he can keep it on the feet, but I don't think he can keep it on the feet against Yuya Wakamatsu. Yuya Wakamatsu, as I said, was able to take down Rhys McLaren often, which was very impressive. So I'm going to go with Wakamatsu to win by decision. It seems like the public has Wakamatsu as well. So give me Yuya Wakamatsu to snap that 2-fight losing streak and win a decision over Wei Xie in this matchup. The next matchup is going to be a heavyweight fight between Amir Aliakbari and Dustin Joynson. And Amir Aliakbari actually does have a very good wrestling background. If you do go to his Wikipedia page, you can see at one point he actually was a world champion of wrestling until some very pesky, very minor sort of problems got in the way, just drug testing, you know, just things like that. Maybe stripped him of his world title, but with that being said, he actually is a very good wrestler in MMA. Now, he did show pretty bad fight IQ when he fought in his first couple of One Championship bouts in his debut. He fought this fella called Ji-Won Kang, who was a lot smaller than him, but was throwing a lot more volume than Amir Aliakbari, because one thing you'll notice is his striking is really bad. But not only is his striking bad, his cardio is bad. But I'll talk about that in another fight. When he fought Ji-Won Kang, all he was doing was this. He was walking around with his hands up. He showed no willingness to get a takedown. You could tell that Ji-Won Kang was preparing for him to take him down, because Ji-Won Kang was running around the octagon trying to be like his least hittable, or at least just moving, a very much a moving target. And Ji-Won Kang eventually did manage to knock out Amir Aliakbari in the middle of like a sequence with the left hook. It was a pretty good KO. I cheered out when I saw it. It was a fun KO to watch. And then another fun KO to watch is Amir Aliakbari getting KO'd by Anatoly Malakin. Now, this was an interesting fight because Anatoly Malakin actually has a really good wrestling background himself. But in this matchup, Anatoly Malakin knocks him down, and then they go into a wrestling sort of sequence after he gets knocked down. And once Amir Aliakbari gets up and he gets at range, he's gassed. He gassed out in 2 minutes against Anatoly Malakin. It was unbelievable how bad this guy's cardio was in this fight. And a gassed out Aliakbari once again gets knocked out unconscious by Anatoly Malakin. So unfortunately for Amir, he is on the wrong end of 2 incredible highlight hook KOs. But it does get a little bit better from there. And then he fights this guy called Mauro Cirilli, just dominates him on the ground with his wrestling, which he should have gone to in his first fight. And then against Brandon Vera, a 45-year-old Brandon Vera, should I say, he gets a takedown about halfway through the first round and immediately ground and pounds him out. And it just was a fight that happened. To be honest, it wasn't that exciting. But Amir Aliakbari, I was watching this guy thinking that he was going to be an absolute beast, an absolute wrestling legend. I thought that he was going to just maybe have not been able to get the takedowns when he got KO'd, but that wasn't the case at all. He was genuinely just not going for takedowns. His fight IQ was pretty bad in those 2 losses, and he probably could have prevented at least one of those losses if he did wrestle. Now, I went into this tape study thinking that I might pick Dustin Joynson. I'd never really seen a Dustin Joynson fight apart from his Dana White's Contender Series fight, which only lasted a couple of minutes, and it was a no contest. And I am very confident Amir Aliakbari wins this fight. Dustin Joynson gets taken down and dominated in the first round against Kirill Jasenko. In the second round, he's getting dominated in the clinch. Joynson actually almost gets finished at one point with a sequence by Kirill up against the cage. And then Joynson against Hugo Cunha. That was a striking fight for the most part. Cunha was trying to take him down. He couldn't take him down, and Joynson was able to win a decision by keeping it at feet and on the feet, and at range. Joynson needs to have this fight on the feet, but I don't think his takedown defense is good enough to defend against Amir Aliakbari, so that is why I am going with Aliakbari. However, if he survives the first round, it could get interesting, because as I said, Amir Aliakbari's cardio seems to be improved from his fights a couple of years ago, but man, it's not very good. His cardio is not very good, his striking isn't very good, so if it's a pure striking fight, Aliakbari is a very powerful guy, but he's not very technical and he's very low volume. Whereas Dustin Joynson is actually surprisingly athletic for a 37-year-old, 240-pound, 6'5" guy. He throws a lot of kicks, and he's fast. He's fast on the feet for a heavyweight, but his takedown defense isn't really there. His strength in the clinch isn't really there. I think Amir Aliakbari can out-wrestle Joynson. I think he can take him down and ground and pound him out, and I think that's how he wins. I think Aliakbari wins by ground and pound TKO. But I wasn't impressed with the tape study of Amir at all. So I don't really know where Amir goes from here after this fight against Joynson. But it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a heavyweight fight. You guys know me and heavyweight fights. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not. I think this one might be one that's not so much. But I'm going to go with Aliakbari to win by ground and pound TKO in the first 2 rounds. I think he gets Joynson down with somewhat ease and wins by ground and pound. Now, the final MMA fight that I'm going to talk about is Gary Tonon taking on Shamil Gasanov, and this is going to be a very, very exciting matchup between 2 fantastic grapplers. Gary Tonon is a multiple-time submission wrestling and BJJ world champion, and so is Shamil Gasanov. If you look at Shamil Gasanov's topology, it does say 2-time BJJ world champion, but he also does have a pancration background as well, and he's really good grappler. Both of these guys are really good grapplers. However, Gary Tonon is more of a BJJ nerd. Every time I'm watching Gary Tonon, this guy is desperate to get the fight to the ground. He's heel hooking, he's throwing Imanari rolls, he's wrestling, like he needs the fight to the ground. He's desperate to get the fight to the ground. Where Shamil Gasanov is really comfortable on the feet, and he's actually a really, really good striker. Gary Tonon's one loss comes to Tan Lee, where he tried to heel hook Tan Lee, and Tan Lee just ground and pounding him, man, and just beating him up when he was on the heel hook, and eventually just put Gary Tonon out cold, man. It was actually a really satisfying KO to watch, because Gary Tonon, man, like, the BJJ nerds must get, like, rock solid thinking about this guy and watching this guy fight, but he is desperate to get the fight to the ground, whereas Shamil Gasanov, not so much. He fought in his debut against the number 2 ranked at the time, Jae-Woon Kim. Looked really, really good on the feet, looked solid on the feet, was throwing pretty technical strikes, head kicks as well. And I think in this matchup, he's going to be potentially a better wrestler as well, because I was so impressed with Shamil Gasanov's wrestling. Gary Tonon does have pretty good wrestling as well, but a lot of the time the way that he does get matchups to the ground is by doing an Imanari roll, or kind of getting a clinch and then pulling like a Kimura off the clinch like he did to a 37-year-old Johnny Nunez who hadn't fought for about 3 years. And I'm just more impressed by Shamil Gasanov. I really am. Shamil Gasanov's grappling's pretty good. I can't see him getting in too much trouble on the ground against Gary Tonon. And I think if Gary Tonon wins this fight, he has to find a submission over Gasanov, where I feel like Gasanov has so many more options here. Gasanov could wrestle Gary Tonon and try and stay safe himself on top if he had to. He could keep the fight on the feet. He could defend the takedowns. He could just avoid the Imanari rolls, which Gary Tonon is going to be constantly trying to roll around like he's Ryan Hall. So I'm going to go with Shamil Gasanov. I'm going to go with a knockout on the feet. We don't really see much of Gary Tonon striking because, as I said, this guy is just so desperate to get the fight to the ground. He's never really striking, like, at all. So I'm going to go with Shamil Gasanov to win this matchup. It is also worth noting that Johnny Nunez probably had the worst fight plan to defeat Gary Tonon I've ever seen in my entire life, because Nunez was trying to take him down. And, like, if you took him down, what were you going to do, Johnny Nunez? Get submitted by him? Like, I just don't understand what Johnny Nunez was trying to do in that matchup. But that was against the washed Johnny Nunez, who was 37 years old at the time, hadn't fought for 3 years, and now he's fighting a young 28-year-old Shamil Gasanov, multiple-time world grappling champion himself, a guy that's very technical on the feet, in my opinion, very good on the feet. He doesn't have a lot of great wins, but he does have a couple good recent wins, and his win over Jae-Won Kim was very impressive, where he looked really good on the feet, and I think he beats Gary Tonon up on the feet, and I think he gets it done inside the distance. I think he probably does win by KO on the feet. I think he finishes off Gary Tonon. I would be very impressed if he managed to submit him, but I'm going to go with Gasanov by KO in this matchup. Most people are going with Gasanov. It's just because he's got more options. He just does. You know, Shamil Gasanov's got the wrestling. He's also got the striking. He's got the BJJ. Whereas Gary Tonon is BJJ and nothing else, for the most part. So I'm going to go with Shamil Gasanov to win this matchup, just based off having more options. He can get a KO. He can maybe even win a decision. He can probably take Gary Tonon down and just stay safe and try and avoid all the submission attempts. So with all that being said, let me know what you think of the picks in the comments. And we're looking forward to this card. It should be a very good one. It's very easy to access. It's going to be on Amazon Prime at 8 PM Eastern Time on Friday. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.